Namaste. Welcome back to the Docker series. So far, we've been looking into single container applications. But as you know, in the real world, there'll be multiple applications running multiple services. So we will need multiple containers. So it's time to level up your Docker game. Today, we'll be seeing a multi-container applications. Today, we'll have our own application running in a single container, and in another container, we'll have a SQL database running. Both will be talking to each other through Docker network. So it will be a little bit complicated, but I'm sure you'll be able to handle it. So let's get started. Now you might be thinking, why to have two different containers? Why not install MySQL in just one container? Like, why can't we do that? But yeah, that's a bad idea. First of all, one container must do one particular task, or it must host one particular service, so that it follows single responsibility principle. Then there might be a case where you want to upscale your front end. So if you have MySQL and your application, both the services running in the same container, upscaling just the front end won't be possible. So that is one reason. Then in production, you might think about using managed database services from cloud, Azure, AWS, or Google. Running multiple processes inside a container adds a lot of complexity. So it's always advised to have separate containers for separate services. Let's create a Docker network, custom network. Now to put a container on a network, there are two ways. Assign the network when starting the container, or connect an already running container to a network. So what we'll do is we'll first create the network, and then we'll add our to-do app or to-do app application service or container to that network. So let's create the network here. So let's open a Visual Studio Code. So Docker create. So we are naming our network as to-do app. To check if network is created, just do the same thing ls, and we have our bridge network over here. The step is done. So we'll create a MySQL container now and attach it to our network that we created just now. Now here there are some environment variables as well. So for that you can just go to Docker Hub. Here in Docker Hub, in that image, as in we are using MySQL image, there is a section for environment variables over here. So these are the names that you see here. We'll be using two names, two environment variables from there. So do not get confused as to where this name is coming from. So this environment variable is coming from here. It's defined in this image itself. So we'll be passing password and the database that we are creating, to-dos database. Password is secret, as in literally secret. Of course, this is a development environment, so we are passing it like this. In normal case or in a production environment, you'll not be using this way. We'll be using MySQL image, and the version is 8.0. Now you see we have defined network here, the previous on the previous step that we created, and we are providing network alias as MySQL. Now this network alias helps a container in the same network to talk to each other with that name. Now when we will have our application container, that container will be able to communicate with the SQL container by using this name in the DNS entry, MySQL. That's the main purpose. So let's copy it and run it. Okay, now let's check if a container is running. Yes, our SQL container is running. Let's move on to next step now. Now what we'll do is we will exec into the container. Now this I haven't shown in the previous videos. So docker exec command is used to log in or to enter into a container. Like in a Linux machine, you put username and password and you enter into the machine, or in Windows machine you put username password. Similarly, to get access or to go inside a container, we use docker exec command. Now let's try doing this. Docker exec -it. Docker, let me clear the screen so that it's visible. Docker exec -it interactive terminal. Now one more shortcut. Now we'll have to mention what which container we want to exec into. Now instead of copying it, you can just write initials like BFE4. Now till here you're inside a container, as in once I execute the command. Now inside the container, what you want to run, we will run MySQL command. Now this is the MySQL command. This is not the network alias. The MySQL command will provide username as root and password we will directly provide when it asks. So let's enter. It's asking password. Now remember, we have given the password as secret. So I'm just entering secret. Okay, so we are inside the container. Now what we have to do is, let's check if the database that we wanted to create is present. So let's do show bases. So you can see along with other databases, that is default one, we have to-dos database as well. So our to-do database is created. Let's exit from here. Now before creating our application container, we will check if we are able to resolve our network alias MySQL. Now do not get confused between two MySQLs. The command that we ran here, this is the MySQL command. So this is, we are executing inside a container and then we are running MySQL command to get the MySQL prompt here. In the next step, we will be trying to understand if the network alias or the DNS entry that we made in this step here is resolvable or not. So we will create another container. Now this image, Nicola netshoot, this has dig utility already installed in it. So we'll use this and see if MySQL is getting resolved correctly or not. Otherwise, after creating the application container, we won't be able to talk to both the containers won't be able to talk to each other and we will be in a problem. So let's try this first. We'll run it. Now that this container is running, let's try running dig MySQL to see if MySQL is getting resolved to an IP. Now if you see in this section, it has an A name, A entry, as an A record is there with a certain IP address. You might have a different IP address, it's random. So but good news is we are able to resolve it. So that was the only purpose of this, sorry, docker ps-a of this particular image or container that we ran. So of course its work is done and it is exited. Now let's move on to next step where we run our application separate container, the actual application that we want to talk to MySQL. So these are the steps. Now the first step is similar, same as we have done in the previous videos. Workspace, as in the working directory, app, and then our whole directory. So we are using bind mount here because we want the real-time development scenario wherein we make changes in the any application file and it should be visible. So we are doing this. We are mentioning what network we want to use since we have created this network and we want both the containers to talk to each other. So we are mentioning this network. Now here we are using some more environment variables as well. We are providing host name MySQL. Now this is the network alias that we provided. Now this name is necessary so that it can resolve and talk. We are providing user, password, and then database to-dos. This is the node image that we have we are going to use, and then this is how we are running the application. So let's copy it and run it. Let's hope everything works fine. Okay, so let's see if it is running. Docker logs -f. I'm just taking initial C26. Okay, so you can see MySQL is connected and it's listening on port number 3000. Now let's go to a browser and try running this application. Localhost 3000. Okay, it's running. Now let's add some entries here. Next video will be about Docker Compose. Let's add this. Now the previous entry was already there because I tried it before. So we have added two entries now. Let's go back. Now let's check if our entries that we added in this page, if these are present in our database. So for that we will do docker exec into the SQL machine. Sorry, into the SQL container. It's kind of small machine. So let's do docker exec -it and let's provide this name. Now here it will log into this container and then we will provide our MySQL commands. MySQL -u root -p and log into to-dos database. Password, you might be remembering the password. So we have logged in. Now just let's run this command. Select star from, what is the table name? To-do -items. There you see, we added 2 entries here, Docker Compose and Docker Multi-Container App here. And it's visible over here. So that means both the containers are talking properly and we have created a multi-container application. Now I understand this is a one step ahead of all the basics that you have went through. This will take a little bit time for you to settle in. So if you want, rewatch the part wherein you got confused, or of course you can add your doubts in the comment section. So let's see what all things we covered in today's video. Why each container should have a single responsibility, how to run a MySQL container and your app container as in 2 different containers, how to use Docker networks for communication, how to pass environment variables for database connection, and how Docker DNS resolves another container names. I hope you were able to follow along. I can understand this was a little bit complicated lecture. So in case you need, if you don't understand any single concept, then you can put it in the comment section. And don't worry, in the next section, we will be learning Docker Compose, where we'll be simplifying all of this and will bring up multiple instances of the container by just one command. So till then, keep learning.